topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello and welcome to the new episode of Mindfulness in Action. And today I would like to reflect a bit about on complex emotions that carry various elements of and nuances of somewhat opposite emotions, just like bittersweet, although it seems it has a relationship to a sensation in the mouth. Bittersweet, it's actually an emotion that was mentioned during my conversation with Chris Germer, who so skillfully presented on how compassion might feel like. And he said, compassion is bittersweet. And I spent some time on observing how that lives in my life and what does that really mean to me. As some of my teachers shared with me that in Zen practice, we never take things for granted. Whatever we hear, we test. And there's also another presupposition on Zen practice. If it's not practical, if you cannot apply it in your life, then why do it? Why study it? It's also good to approach the practice with a bit of a doubt and a lot of curiosity. And if we have those, then it can support us in staying connected with the practice. So I studied bittersweet. And something happened today that is still very strong for me. I was carrying a lot of weight. I went to buy a cat litter. It was like 10-liter box. And on the other hand, I had a full bag of the food for my puppy and for the cat. And I couldn't carry it. I had to rest often and switch my hands so that I could move with more ease. And there was one part I didn't see the curb on the pavement, and I slipped and I fell. And immediately I was teleported into my childhood to a scene when I was riding a bicycle, and I think that my bike was on a rock. I couldn't. I had probably somewhere, because of the area where we lived and the memory where it happened. It was somewhere between, I was 7 to 9 years old when that happened. And I remember so clearly that that moment of falling instigated such shame that I first looked around to see if anyone was watching. And when I realized that no one was watching, or at least I couldn't see that no one was there, I had more capacity to deal with pain. My knee hurt a lot, and I remember that I needed to give it some attention when I came back home, and my mom helped me. But it didn't matter that much because nobody saw that I fell. And I actually brought that memory a lot in my when I began to practice mindfulness. and was studying that shame and how connected it is with this impression that we are watched, and if I make a mistake and nobody sees it, it's not a mistake, right? Something to do with integrity as well. So, but this time something else happened. There was a younger man. I actually didn't really look at him. Again, there was a sense of shame. I felt like clumsy, and there was something about my age as well. And I was, I was no longer a child falling off the bicycle, and now I was thinking immediately that scene came, and I thought like, oh, a 7-year-old falling from a bicycle was a common thing. It doesn't matter, but 56-year-old woman falling, it's like, oh. And but this young man, tall, I know that he was tall through the voice. I imagine that he was in his early 30s. He came, and I just felt his presence was so soft, so warm, and he said, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And I was still looking at the curb and thinking, how did this happen? I was puzzled, and noticed at that moment that just his care actually helped me to dissolve the feeling of shame. I could literally feel it in my body. And as I continued to walk, noticed that there was a little bit of pain in my knee, but nothing serious happened. And then the voice of self-compassion came with encouragement, and at the same time, actually offering some anger towards the curb, and and being okay with that, but not offering anger towards me, not calling me I'm stupid, I'm clumsy. And I just felt all of that mixed emotions kind of like just changed into the feeling of this happens, it's okay. And it didn't create much of a label of who I am because I allowed something like that to happen. Now, it might seem complex of what my learning is really about, but I'm going to read a poem by Charlotte Freeman. I happened to see her book on my bookshelf, and the book is called "This Was Meant to Find You When You Needed It Most." And it's a collection of short poems and stories, and sometimes just a few words. So this is what the poem says. Allow yourself to sit with your pain. As long as you need to, allow your pain to teach you all that it needs to teach. But do not allow it to define you, because you are such a beautiful composition of so much more than the things that have broken you. It really touched me, the poem. And there is something very powerful with that, allowing yourself to sit with the pain and with the difficulty. Another reason why I chose this topic for today is that recently, in different conversations, with clients, my coaching clients or friends, or my sister, there was that comment and literally mentioning the sentence, ignorance is a bliss, and wondering why am I digging so much? Why am I looking at all these parts of myself? What is that serving me? Or it's so painful. Wouldn't it be great if I just wasn't looking? And I was curious about that as well. So the combination of pain, the relationship towards pain, and how am I allowing the awareness of pain to be present, emotional, physical, or mental. And then the habit energy, to respond to pain with moving away from it, either taking painkillers, numbing ourselves, and seeing pain as nuisance that is not allowing us to achieve what we want to achieve and go on as far as we wanted. And then what role is awareness having in that process, and why would one want to be aware? In mindfulness practice, that presence, that capacity in staying connected with what is happening internally in our environment is praised as one of the key attributes for achieving happiness, or achieving, if it can be achieved. But still, the question is why? Why would one really want to go and study all of that? So I'm going to read another poem. It's actually called Autobiography in 5 Chapters by Portia Nelson. And it says, I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am hopeless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find the way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. In Chapter 5, I walk down another street. There is no easier way to explain on how we get trapped with these traps and holes in our life, where we repeat patterns over and over again, and often get stuck with that, saying it's not my fault, it's my boss, it's my partner, it's the country where I'm living in, it's the city life, I want this, and so on. So somewhere there, when we are unpacking this the connection with pain and with difficulties, with suffering in life, we move in awareness to shift our perspective from it's my fault, or I can't believe I'm in the same place, into actually coming into a place where we can recognize the pattern, make a choice of at least walking around the hole and doing something different, knowing that that is on part of our habit energy, and hopefully or eventually finding our capacity to just not face that life lesson again, so that it's not a topic. So does it ever happen to you that you have this sensation that certain scenarios are repeating? You leave a relationship and then you realize it's the same pattern. even though you thought that it was all fault from your partner, that actually the pattern is still following, and then realizing the personal stake in it, or the responsibility. Or maybe we were blaming our parents, but then becoming a parent, realizing we have same patterns, and so on. So that is why we study presence, and we want to come closer to that is presenting itself as a difficulty. And now, how does bittersweet sensation come in, and why bittersweet? So originally, when we are coming into the connection and relationship with the suffering, with the difficulty in life, whatever challenge we are facing, whatever hole we are falling into, we find the capacity to notice it. I am hurting because of this. That's the bitter part of it. And then in that way, we are connecting with ourselves, because we know that the pain is there, the difficulty is there, the bitterness of life is there, that we connect with it, not because we want the bitterness to go away. Sometimes we just can't make it go away. It's just not possible. It is life. All we can do is just be present, connect with ourselves, stay there, and at least be friendly to ourselves in that space. So falling today into on the side of the curb, on the sidewalk, I connected with my knee and just said, I love you. I'm sorry it's hurting. I didn't mean to hurt you. And it might sound a little bit naive to develop that kind of conversation with my part of my body, but it really helped to reduce everything, the whole situation, into a little bit more manageable. I'm still feeling the pain a little bit. I still feel slightly shaken, even when I'm talking about it. And understanding that there is a part of me still wanting to go and judge of me, of being clumsy and so on. So I'm watching both. And every time when I manage to dissolve the sense of clumsiness or lack of correctness, not being proper, and so on, and when I meet that part with a sentence, yeah, I know you're there and I love you, something dissolves, something softens, something opens up. So I can notice that there's some sweetness coming out of it. And that's that bittersweet part. So I'm not neglecting the bitterness, I'm just facing it with warmth, and the sweet sense of warmth and presence and acceptance then replaces that bitterness. And I learned something also about in my practice, that if I try to intellectualize about it, if I try to change it only by thinking about it, it somehow comes at me like stepping on a bomb, on a mine. It explodes. So if I'm suppressing in any way that sense of difficulty, or how I'm going through whenever something challenging happens in my life, at certain point something will come up and explode in my face. And that is why I practice self-compassion, because my habitual way of thinking is actually not serving me. It's causing me even more grief and more suffering, to be honest. Now, there's another side of bittersweet where we can think about, what about the time when I'm thinking about the sweet memory and then some bitterness comes in? Actually, I thought, well, that is maybe nostalgia, when we are thinking about good old times when things were really, really great, and then some sadness comes up after that. That's another complex emotion as well. And it's actually the connection and relationship between joy and sadness. And often they go together, and in compassion, they are really connected. They really come in a pair. And if any of you have seen the movie Inside Out 1 and 2, you will understand it's a great way. I highly recommend it, although it's animation. I highly recommend to watch it to learn a little bit more about the relationship between joy and sadness. And it's actually another element that I have learned is about the sense of compassion. And what Chris and many of my guests in previous episodes have spoken about, that it doesn't mean only a soft side. It's not about creating this warm, touchy-feeling attitude towards suffering of the others. We learned more about compassion and this sense of bittersweet presence with the suffering of another human being through the research that was done with Mathieu Ricard, one of the Buddhist monks. He's actually French, but he was one of the first that was meditating with monitoring the brainwave activity. And when they did that, they showed him and different pictures of the suffering. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but he basically experienced love while watching suffering of other people. And it created a puzzle from others, because there was this connotation: if you see someone watching, someone suffering, then it means you need to suffer too. And this is actually that capacity of compassion to transform bitterness into sweetness is absolutely stunning. And it happens from the heart. It really happens from the heart. And one time when I was actually studying Hakomi, it's mindfulness-based somatic psychology, and my teacher told me that I'm too intellectual, that I will not probably have a hard time developing loving kindness. And Hakomi is a practice where we just stay in presence with the client in our work with someone, and often clients who would look for Hakomi would have some form of trauma. And perhaps he knew what could motivate me, perhaps he didn't, but maybe he really thought that I don't have the capacity. Maybe that was a trick. We had a break of 3 months between modules. I asked my coach to support me in developing loving kindness practice. And with a combination of EMDR, and EMDR is a tapping. I just did a butterfly hug, and repetition of the words, may I now feel safe and protected, may I now be healthy and strong, may I now experience connection with others. And I did that 10 minutes each day, and I literally had curiosity on what was going to happen if I gave myself a chance to connect with my heart and experience loving kindness. And the moment when my heart opened up, and just the feeling of the wave of the warmth that came over me and from me, inside me, through me, around me, was something that felt really, really like, and nothing else I have ever felt before. And I understood that no words can actually really explain it. And that is what is keeping me connected with the practice. I sometimes have capacity to offer it to myself, loving kindness. Sometimes I need others. And this is where community really matters. And I really, really cherish the time when I can do it for someone else. So this is an invitation for you to explore anything that can support you in your time, a time of the struggle, which happens no matter what we say. If we are human, we are suffering, and there is the element of pressure. And sometimes we feel very strong and we can overcome these pressures on our own. And if you do need someone to listen, find a friend, someone who's not going to fix you, but going to support you by showing you how precious you are, just as you are. So for the end, I'm going to offer another poem, a poem from Lao Tzu, an ancient philosopher. Lao means old in Chinese, Tzu means son. So he was seen as a childlike elder. Always we hope. Always we hope someone else has the answer. Some other place will be better. Some other time it will all turn out. This is it. No one else has the answer. No other place will be better. And it has already turned out. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want. There is no need to run outside for better seeing, nor to peer from a window. Rather, abide at the center of your being, for the more you leave it, the less you learn. Search your heart and see the way to do is to be. What a beautiful poem. If you're curious about exploring the practice of self-compassion, mindful self-compassion, I will be teaching soon through the Center of Mindful Self-Compassion. You can find the information about the program there. And if you're interested in bringing this into your own capacity to develop how to listen to others and how to coach through insight to presence, if you already have your practice, please do reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. You can connect with me through my website, www.dalidaturkovic.com. It's my name. And on the contact, just schedule a call and we can meet. Even on my through my calendar, we can have a Zoom call. This is all I have prepared for today. I'm wishing you moments of bittersweet if you're experiencing some difficulties in life, may you transform your suffering into joy, and be safe wherever you are, and know that you are loved and cared for. This is it for today. My name is Dalida Turkovic, and I will see you next time.